Tom Lavecchia here with a special live edition on a Sunday. So for those watching football, we appreciate you checking in. We're doing a short one, a sweet one, a live one with Anthony Arillotta, former Genovese captain. First, I want to announce my co-host, JSV Capital. Most people know Jason. Jason, why don't you give a quick hello?
Hey, guys. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here again, Tom. Thank you. Anthony, pleasure to meet you.
Same here, Jason. Nice meeting you, too. Tom, what's up? Always a pleasure.
Happy to have you back on. So interesting enough is we did the last live. We had Francesco Fiordolino on, great guy. I'm just pulling up my channel because I'm going to view the comments here. And we had a great discussion. But what's interesting was we kind of had a lot of more questions than answers than we normally do. I had Anthony on the old show. I've been in touch with Anthony. Generally, we have like a good discussion. This particular one, I think you were like a little more candid. So what I'm going to do, folks, is if you're watching this on a live or the rerun, on the rerun, click above to the original interview. It's about 2 hours long. Anthony, I've seen all your stuff. I thought it was one of your best pieces, but we kind of left some things to unpack, if you will. So if it's okay, we'd like to jump right in.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Sure.
Okay, I'll have Jason. I'll man the comments. You go.
Yeah,
first.
I've been busting Tom's chops about some questions to be asking you. He's like, you know what, just come on the show and ask them yourself.
Right.
But like I said, Anthony, pleasure meeting you, and I love the content that you're putting out. And I know I watched that 2-hour special you did with Frank and Tom 2 weeks ago or whatever. Thought it was great. And you said you had some content coming up. And before we go, we'll get into that. But I'm definitely looking forward to what you have coming out, because you have a great life story to tell. And like I said before we got on here, that incredible interviews that you've been doing. Top 2 in my book. And between you and Sammy, I don't know who it's tied there.
I thought no. He said it went Raimondi, Sammy, and then Arillotta.
I don't even know.
Raimondi, the man.
But either way.
Anthony Raimondi.
So, and again, so you've been on Tom's show a couple times. There's no need to go back into where you started and how you got into the position that you're into, because you've been on this show a few times. So we're just going to jump right into it. So the one thing that's been bothering me is that you were not a straight guy, but you weren't a made guy, and you were making your money on the street with your rackets, right? And you were already either a millionaire or close to it. Okay, why? And then I saw in interviews that you didn't have to kick up. Now, why would they make you? First of all, number one, usually if you're in the illegal rackets, whether it's, drugs, gambling, loansharking, somebody's coming knocking on your door, and at least Jersey, New York, and they're saying, hey, you're going to pay a street tax. And that goes on everywhere.
Right.
But then, okay, you didn't pay that. It's okay, so you got away with it. But then they make you. And now I would think they would make you because, hey, you're going to pay a percentage to us, but also we're going to open the doors for you, right? What was the point if you're not paying? If you're not paying this tax, this kicking 10% up, and by the way, I thought this was like a golden rule, 25% of everything you make goes up. What was the point of them making you?
So I got made later on. I got made in 2003. Now you got to understand, I became a millionaire in the 90s in my mid-20s.
Wow.
So by the time, I got made with the Genovese family in New York City, the reason, they put it that I got made is because they wanted me to kill a guy for them in New York City. So when that took place, they said, well, come down and kill this guy. And
right.
I did. I came down and attempted to kill him. So that's what got me made with them in 2003. Prior to that, growing up around my area with the guys it wasn't like I didn't have to kick up or, it wasn't, we were all partners in the sports with a mobster, like Bruno was our partner. So, and, we were partners he would take, and, he treated us like you would younger guys. Like he took 50% of the sports. He took 50% of the Shylock business. He took the majority of the numbers and all the card games. And then we split our end 50%. So there was
kind of were
right. What I say in my story is unique is because I didn't care about none of that. My money that I made was all mine. Was 90% of the money that I made was in the marijuana business, and that didn't. Not one penny went to the mob. So not one penny went to Bruno. Not one penny went to my other part. You know, I had a lot of so-called not partners, but business people I did business with, and they became multimillionaires too in the marijuana business. And so, you know, that was my business. Now, when it came to the sports business, Bruno took a piece, and Bruno would want a piece of everything. He would want a piece of, you know, I had a nightclub, and he would want a piece of that. I had that when I wasn't, you know, my past stories, I'm sure you heard, I was shelved at one point. Okay. So when I was shelved, I acquired, I had restaurants, I had nightclubs, all while I was on the shelf. Bruno would want a piece of that. That's how Bruno was. He would want to have a piece. They kind of, one of his nicknames was PC. He wanted a piece of everything of the city, you know. And
Tom's.
Yeah. I mean, so, you know, it's nothing wrong with that. That's just the entrepreneur mindset of a guy wanting to get involved in businesses. But in that line, it's like, you know, he wanted a piece of everything that you had going on. The problem with him and me is I had a lot of drugs going on, and a lot of my stuff evolved around drugs, and he couldn't have anything to do with that. And a lot of beefs came up, a lot of sit downs came up regarding drugs. And he where we let's just say we robbed drug dealers for kilos of coke, and he would come and approach us about it. You know, and these were big scores. These were hundreds of $1,000 scores, and he would come up to us and be like, "You guys hear anything about some coke guys being robbed?" And you know, I go, "Nah, that's drugs, Bruno. We don't get involved in that." Yeah, but yeah, so there was a lot of beefs that came up with the drugs. But so going into 2003, I never kicked up anything. You know, Bruno, when he took over in Boss, and like I said, that's all true with us not kicking up nothing in the Springfield faction to New York. No. You know, Bruno sent down a van full of goods. I said that in past of what he sent, cigars and expensive liquors and everything.
Some envelope. Bruno wasn't sending an envelope.
No, according to Anthony.
So no. So now that changed in 2001 when Bruno became boss. See, Bruno got put. Now, when I say boss, just so the viewers will know, Bruno was a boss here. Just like before him, there was Babesh Shabeli, there was Anthony DeLavo, there was Skyball Shabeli, there was Big Nose. Those were all bosses.
Correct.
Bosses of the Genovese faction of Western Mass, Connecticut.
Yeah, correct.
When I became in power, I was the same position. When they wrote articles about me, they put boss, reputed boss.
Yeah.
So I'm a captain in the family in New York, but we're bosses here. That's what it comes down to. So Bruno, when he became boss, he went to New York, and this is how it started. When money started going down to New York, Bruno went down there to ask to shake down two guys for $500 a week. Both guys. One guy was a strip club guy, ended up being an informant around here since the 80s. Everybody knows about him. And another guy, his cousin. So Bruno got the okay to shake them down for $500 a week, which is $1,000 a week, you know, and they were told to give the money to the kids, which was me and a few other kids that were hanging around that they had proposed as memberships. So New York didn't even want any of the money, number one. Number two, Bruno was told to give it to the kids. And that's how this extortion scheme started. And then as it built up, you know, to $50,000 a month, that's when a piece started going down to New York, started getting involved. And that's when money started going down just out of the extortions. I mean, that was nothing. That was like, you know, $50,000 a month is peanuts. It's not even money. But a piece of that went down to New York, and so they got some crumbs sent down there, and that's how all the, you know, tributes and you know, paying so-called paying New York. That's the part where
yeah, now it makes more sense to me. Yeah.
So I got a question about that. You know, kind of modern day Cosa Nostra. Hey, Walt, how are you, buddy? Modern day Cosa Nostra, if you will. So I'm a restaurant, and part of your, you know, kick up every week. You get me for $1,000 a week because I'm making $2 million a year. You get me for $1,000 a week. I don't mind paying it. You guys come in, you hang out, I pay $1,000 a week, everything's good. We got a decent rapport, right? But what does that include? I've always kind of wondered. Like, so for example, if something happens to my business, somebody threatens it, you come in, right? But what if somebody smacks my niece and I need that kid tuned up? If I come to you, Anthony, hey, listen, yeah, I'm helping you out every week. Can you take care of this to the rule for me? Or you guys were like, you know what? Like, you kind of paid protection, but you really didn't get anything out of it. I've always kind of wondered the modern day Cosa Nostra, what that protection got you.
So in our area, we didn't shake down. Like, no businesses got shaken down until Bruno became boss.
Yeah.
Then they did. So let's just say, but back in the day, so you could see where that's coming and it would make sense to you, is there was a lot of the neighborhoods that had Italian coffee shops, Italian restaurants, and there was a big presence of a young Italian gang kids that were always getting in trouble. But the thing was, there was different mafia families that would go in and approach the restaurant owner, and this way, when he was paying something to one of the guys, he was protected from any other mobster going in to try to shake him down.
Oh, not from again, if I always thought naively that if you're charging me a tax, if I got a problem, I can kind of come to you. That's kind of what I'm paying for.
I'm going way back though. Back in the day. We never did that here until Bruno took over. But yeah, let's just say, Bruno had a restaurant down in Boston that he was getting $25,000 a month. I mean, a year. Every Christmas, the guy would give him $25,000. There was a problem. What happened? This was in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. The owner's daughter got something messed up with something with some guy the guy hit her, something like that. Some beef was going on with the owner's daughter. So it ended up the guy ended up getting shot a couple of times. The owners that was paying Bruno, his daughter, the guy that she was dating, got shot a couple of times. So yeah, if you're with somebody, they're supposed to, they're paying you for protection. Somebody bothers your family, they're there for that. Somebody owes you money, they're there for that. They'll get a piece, obviously, if they go collect money and everything, but that's what they're there for. They're there for your protection. And yes, they have to come and protect you if somebody bothers your business, somebody bothers your family. They have to, protect you. Otherwise, why are you paying them money? But that all went away later on. All those, that was more back in the day with Italian neighborhoods and stuff. Bruno took it back around, and he was getting businesses to pay him money. We were getting, all the street guys were paying, loan sharks, sports guys, but then he was also getting restaurants and nightclubs, and they were also paying. And they hated paying. They were running. That's what put a lot of heat on us in our area. They were actually going to the state police, organized crime task force, having meetings. They were yelling and screaming to the mayor on the front steps. These guys are shaking us down. You do something about it.
But did it get too much? I mean, was it 200, 300 a week, or were they going, give me 1,000, give me 1,500, give me 2,000? Did you just get greedy after a while? I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, what's 200, 300? The guys, you're making 500 a year, you're making 300 a year. Okay, each business is giving you 200, 300, but they started getting greedier. You guys started wanting more and more.
So the restaurants, no, I think it was like you said, 200 a week, 250 a week, 1,000 a month and these restaurants were multi-millionaire. I mean, they were crazy amount big restaurants, so it wasn't hurting them. Where it got greedy, and then when it started off with the two guys, they're multimillionaires to begin with. But you would have thought that they were getting their whole life savings taken the way they were crying about it. But it was like $500 a week. But still, here's the thing, and I don't believe in none of that. Just so you know, I got blamed for it. They wrote about it. They said that I was involved in it. I was, but that's not how I do business. I don't believe in the extortion. You go to a guy, you make him pay $500 a week, $2,000 a month. The same guy that we went to and asked for the $500 a week, if I went to him, which I did on other deals, and other people went to him on other deals and said, hey, we need $1 million to get involved in this bar, nightclub, or strip club or something. and we want you to put up the million, and we want to go 50% partner with you, but we need you to put up the million. That same guy that you're going to extort for $5 lousy hundred a week will put up the $1 million, and he's done it before. Will put up the $1 million for you. So where is the logic in going to shake these people down? There was none. And then it brought in a ton of heat in our area, brought in a ton of heat. To me, and then the money was getting split up. You know, it was $50,000 a month. It got to more, it got to less, but it was up there. And it was a portion was getting, I think Bruno was sending like 12 to 15 of it down to New York. We all chopped up the rest. I mean, when it all got down and said, there was like 15 of us up here that was chopping it up. I mean, when it was all said and done, it was like, it was peanuts. It was like 1,000, 1,500 a month out of that. And all the heat that it was bringing. I mean, everybody in our area was outraged over this. They were like, because it's never was done before. They didn't extort in our area like that. They didn't make, it's one thing, like I said, you make a deal with a guy, you do business with the guy, and he's paying, but you're partners now, you got 20% of the club. So if he's paying you $2,000 a week, but the reason he's paying you that is because the club is doing good. That's not a shakedown. That's business.
Right. What was your, going back to you being made, because I'm really intrigued about this part of your life. What was it that you wanted they wanted something out of you, and that was to go hit a guy, right? But if you had your millions already, like if I'm a guy struggling, like I'm making, whatever, I'm struggling to pay the bills, those are the hitters, right? Those are the guys who, you got guys who make money, and you got guys who are the hitters, right? You were the guy who made money. Why did you want to bring that on yourself? What did you see in the opportunity of being a made guy? I guess maybe you later found out it wasn't worth it. But at the time, what did you think that you were going to get? I mean, you already had millions, right? So if they weren't bringing you money, right? You actually were going to be bringing them money. Right. So why was it important to you to be made and put this kind of heat on you, or that could bite you later on in life?
Right. So when I was young, you made a good point about a guy who's a hitter. And you got guys. I was a millionaire. Yeah, I was a multimillionaire. I made my first million at 1997. So after coming out of prison broke and 100,000 in debt in 1993. So wife getting pregnant, all that. So yes, I was a big earner, but I also was capable of violence. I was capable of murder. So I got told that when I was a young kid in state prison. That combination right there is the dangerous combination that those type of people are the ones that rise in the underworld. When somebody can take a life and also somebody is capable of putting things together and making money for the crew, for themselves, that's what makes a dangerous person. So going forward, that was in me. I can't change what was in me, that I grew up violent and that I had the capacity to kill somebody. The guys I hung around with the guys I hung around with, a lot of them couldn't make any money, but they could take a life. Then I had other guys that could make a lot of money, but they couldn't kill anybody. So, it's like somebody told me a long time ago, actually Joe Massino said this, it's like, it takes a lot of different meat to make a Sunday sauce. Yeah. All different, and it's like different people that are capable. Some people just can't do the violent act. And so you don't ask them to do that. You just keep it going with them and the legitimate. So with me, growing up, it was always, we were part of this, I would say the last era in our area, the last era of the Mafia, the mob. And it was still something that, it was like it was something that as a young kid, it was
aspired to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you were Italian and you were a criminal, what else would you be? You're not going to be a Blood or a Crip or a Latin King, So you're Italian.
I know Whitey Bulger's not he's Irish mob, and well, why wouldn't you do something like that? Your own crew, doing your own thing. I don't need these guys, but it was something that you actually aspired to be. You actually wanted to be a part of a family, be a part of, this organization.
So growing up, like I said, I'm violent, I'm making money, and things just happen. So I'm in my area. like I was shelved in 1996 to 98. Bruno brings me back around, and I'm not looking. I'm just still like I'm living the greatest life there is, the greatest. So I'm not looking at it as Bruno told me he was going to propose me and make me before. That all came and went. I didn't really care about that. But what happens is things started to take place and just started to become, Bruno ended up becoming boss. That was a big thing right there. I'm back around him now. The leadership changes in New York as this is going on. They want somebody killed in New York. See, it's like everything is happening, and I just happen to be a guy that grew up like in that life.
Right.
I'm around it, and so being around it, it's like if you're friends with somebody there, and they said, "Hey, somebody bothered my family," what do you want to do to the guy? How far? What kind of extreme do you want to go with him? Do you want to shoot him? Do you want to hurt him with a bat? We're there to help. We're there for each other for that.
Yeah.
When the guy came and approached me and said, and then so it's really long stories with different things, but the quick version, when they approached me and said they wanted a guy murdered in New York, to me that really wasn't a shocking thing to hear. Like somebody else would have been like, "Oh my God, I got to go to New York and kill the guy."
You were already thought of, okay, what are we doing? How are we doing this? When are we going to do it? You were already in that mode.
We grew up in that mode. At any given time, we could take a life, and in the past, a lot of shit happened. So it was like a nothing. The difference is the two guys that they wanted to propose in the family with me. And another thing, I wanted to have like this. I had other aspirations I could tell you about where I was going with us around here. I wanted it to be more legitimate, more business sense, nightclubs, strip clubs, all kinds of the garbage business, all legitimate. I wanted to push us in that, but I never had the chance to do that. Kept getting
Can I ask you a question real quick? I didn't mean to interrupt you. By the way, is that a Padron 64?
No, this is my father. My father's. My
father is as good as Padron and one of my favorites. Sorry, I thought it was a Padron for a reason. I love my father as well. Now, my question is, when I talk to a lot of people, right, and obviously everybody has, hey, I was going for this. How far or how close were you away from getting your crew to legitimate to where you want to be, or you were so far off that you would have needed like another 10 years? I want to get a feel for that as well.
Yeah. So when I became made in 2003 of August, and I had all the power here. We were just trying to stay under the radar and try to get through everything. Nobody was killed yet. There wasn't too much violence. We could have snuck through that. And then all of a sudden, all kinds of murders started. It started going crazy around here. Shootings, and I wanted to kill. I mean, we had a list of like 12 dozen people we wanted to kill eventually, but we couldn't get to them. But it was like everything just went crazy in the area. But my goal was to make in my area another like half a dozen guys in my area throughout Connecticut and Western Mass. Make a half a dozen guys. And I already had the biggest crew, and I wanted to build the crew, but I wanted us to go into all the legitimate businesses that the old timers here had that we would have got in 2 seconds. We would have got all the strip clubs. We would have got all the garbage business. We would have got everything that serviced the restaurant. We would have started a business to service that restaurant, because that's how it was here. Every restaurant, when we walked in, they're like, "What can I do for you?" We need the dumpsters. You got it. What else can I do? Buy the wholesale, buy the foods from us. What else can I do?
But that's old school. Like Cosa Nostra had its iterations, right? But that's old school, historical Cosa Nostra, all the way back to Sicily. You're the butcher. You buy your meat from a friend. You buy your linens from a connected place. You buy your cheese. So in a way,
the neighborhoods.
Correct.
In the neighborhoods, right?
Correct.
But there's no more neighborhoods. I mean, the neighborhoods all got dwindled down. We're talking. So just picture that same mentality. So picture the world as a neighborhood. That's how I pictured it. The world is a neighborhood. So I'm not just looking at it as the south end of Springfield, the Italian section. No. I want all of Connecticut. I want to go into New York. I want to go into Rhode Island. I want to go all the way into Albany. I want it all. and that's all our neighborhood because we know all the restaurant people. We're there. We're eating at all these restaurants. You know, we spend money at your places too. It's not, and there's no extortion involved in that. You know, like they try to say, well, that's kind of an extortion. It's not extortion.
Correct.
You know, I know what they try to say because of who you are. Well, you're a mafia guy and you're a reputed member of a family, and so what? It's legitimate business.
Correct.
You know, but the way they look at feds look at it is, it's a form of extortion. It's not though. It's not a form of extortion. You're going there. What if I give the guy a better price than he's paying for the contract that he's got now? If he's paying for his dumpster $500 a month and I charge him $400, how is that extortion?
Yeah, good point.
So when you got your button, did you have more responsibilities, or was it the same? Like, you know, Monday or Sunday night, you got your button. Come Monday, Tuesday, what was it? You know, was it
right? It was nice. It wasn't bad. It was just
nothing really changed.
It was one pain in the ass. If it wasn't for this one pain in the ass, yeah. If it wasn't for that guy, I mean, you know, wanting me to go meet him all the time for fucking nothing. If it wasn't for, and he's the one that, you know, ended up being the informant, and he was the one that, remember when you asked me earlier, was there greed involved? Yes. The greed took over once the leadership changed in New York. That's when the greed changed. That's when Artie Nigro became boss. He had this guy, John Bologna, around him. That's when the greed took over. That's when all the plotting took over. That's when Bruno was getting taken down, started happening. And that's when it all happened. But when I got made, I mean, it was still it was a nothing thing. I had all kinds. Listen, I had every single legitimate. I had every single thing you could think of on the street business going, right? People don't realize that, but when you break it down, break down a sports business and see how easy it is to run. You know, we started using it going overseas in Costa Rica, our office, and then you got a big loan shark business. Then you got a number business that's doing close to 100,000, you know, 75,000 a week. Go try to go get somebody and put those businesses together. It takes, you know, and we had all those. I had all
the infrastructure
going on. Never mind the legitimate businesses, half a dozen of restaurants throughout the whole area, bars.
You already had your schedule filled as a non-made guy.
And it was nothing, though. I tell you, it's like as much as I had and the money that was rolling in, I was still bored. I lived a great life. I woke up, it was like I smoked cigars. I'm out having a future.
Monday,
yeah, I mean, it was
like I got to go see this one and this one. Tuesday.
Well, no, here's the thing. You got to understand, Jason. I had partners. So another thing I do, I brought in partners, and I'll tell you a deal, but we won't have time now. I want to tell you this deal I did with these two lowlifes in my area. But I brought in partners in everything that I did. So in sports business, right? So you would think like I brought in partners in my sports. So now they were partners with me in sports. Then I brought different partners in with my number business. Then I had several partners in Shylock business. I had other partners that were still doing different sports in different areas. Then the Joker Pokers. I had about 10 different partners when it came to the Joker Pokers. Then you're doing legitimate businesses. Obviously, each legitimate business is a different partner that you have in the restaurant, in the nightclub.
Were these guys already in the sports book? So you went to a local guy. He had 100 players. You said, "Listen, I'll help you out."
So
I mean, it must be hard to build. I mean, how do you build a sport? You don't got no players.
Sports business. No, we had players. We have our own. Here's what I did.
Well,
so we got our own sports book that's doing like $2 million a month in gross business. Okay, so that's my own business. I mean, if we won every single bet, we win $2 million. Obviously, that ain't gonna happen.
What's the gross margin on that? Like 10% holdback, right?
Roughly? Yeah, 15, 20%. You know, whatever. I mean, more. I mean, maybe even more. But my thing was, so we would have. There's probably dozens of other bookmakers in the area. Now, a lot of them were paying to operate.
Nope. Hold on, Anthony. We lost
to operate. Yeah. They were paying money to operate in our area. So now other ones, instead of paying, they would pay like Christmas, or sometimes they would pay monthly. But then other ones would edge off to us. So like say they took a bet of 5,000 and they only wanted to keep 2, they could edge off 3,000 to us. Okay. But so that was another big thing. So we were getting play from all the other offices in the area, which were big money plays. I mean, you're talking these plays, these sports books were big and they would edge off to us. But my thing was where I try to go with this is in Costa Rica, you would pay, say, I'm going to round everything off, say $25 a man, right? Well, we had it where we could pay, we had a connection where we could pay back, and this is going back into the early 2000s, around $6. So what we started to do, we were
per head.
Per head.
Holy shit!
No.
So what we would do is, so say you got 1,000.
Oh.
Yeah, you'd pay 6 and charge 25, right?
Well, that's what I just was explaining. That's what I was going to do. So if you get 1,000 customers, you don't even have to shake anybody down. You don't even have to bet anymore. You just go to somebody and you just say, "Here, use the office, and we don't want nothing from you. Just here's the 800 number. Use it." You know what I'm saying? And just think now you get 1,000 guys and you're making $20. You're making 20 to 30,000 a week, and with no risk.
Hold on, we got a little friend here. Jason, you're welcome. Hold on.
Who's that? The little.
That the benefits of doing it live at the house. So okay. So but this goes back to, this was always a Genovese thing. Okay, if you follow the history of it, what like Luciano did, and Meyer Lansky specifically, he wanted to control all the gambling, and not a lot of people know this. Back in the day when there were backroom bookies and stuff, they had like you said, lay off bets, or they wanted to just bet with a bigger house or bet direct. All these rooms were connected to these old wire rooms. That whole Costa Rica thing was from the 50s, and they were wire rooms versus obviously websites. So they had that infrastructure. So you basically were going to replicate the Meyer Lansky model for all the bookies. And Anthony, that's brilliant, brother.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing, it eliminates the guy now, the phone man, that he can only handle. We had 150 bettors, let's say, right? You're going to need at least 4 phone guys to answer 150 bettors, and you're going to have to pay 4 phone guys. Then you need to clean those guys out to make sure they're not robbing, because they all rob. I don't care if you're Al Capone, they'll rob you. So you have to clean them out. And then you have to have a guy go and pay and collect, which you're going to need that anyways, even if you're going to overseas and everything. So it's a very intricate system that you have to have in place. What Costa Rica did was eliminate. Oh, and then there was mistakes you got to say, that play into it. They make mistakes.
This and
Or the guy said, I didn't mean the New York Mets, I meant New York Yankees. Well, so now Costa Rica, they eliminate all that. Number one. Number two, it's all recorded. So nobody could say I wanted to bet, North Carolina instead of South Carolina or whatever, a switch, a New York Giants instead of New York Jets. And and there was no mistakes ever. So you eliminate the mistakes, you eliminate the people robbing you. It's going to cost a little bit more, but not for us, because we ended up getting a great deal at that time. And like, if I ever got time to put that together just with the sports, I would have just took make the $20 a man and go to everybody, because you would have got 1,000 bettors a week, like nothing.
Correct.
And you had the ability if you wanted to start in any industry, you built up the credentials, the ability,
the infrastructure.
No, forget the infrastructure. You want to get into Loansharking. You want to get into bookmaking. You didn't have anything. You're nothing. Ground zero. You had the ability to put the word on the street. Anthony's crew wants to get into bookmaking, and you would develop your ways into the business that way. Again, you have 0 customers, but you had a street name, and that allowed you to start book next week, start Loansharking tomorrow, start in the garbage industry if you wanted to 2 weeks from now. Have a sit down with somebody.
Right.
That's how you were able to start everything.
Right?
Well,
and the partnerships.
The loan shark. Well, to me, sports was like the worst thing. There was other guys that were way more sophisticated when it came to sports bookmaking in our area than I was. I was a nut. I was a crazy gambler. So and I was a violent guy. I was, people don't like betting with guys that they're worried if they might not get paid.
Correct.
What are they going to do? Where are they going to go if they don't get paid? If this guy, so usually they like nice, calm business type men that are non-violent to put their bets in. I wasn't that, and I used to be my own worst. I used to be my own best customer, betting our own office.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy stories when it came to that. But when it came to Loansharking, that's a different story. Everybody takes money. They don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So like at a young age, I mean, we had 400,000 on the street in our early 20s, and I kept going to prison back then, 1991, and I ended up dissolving the partnership with them people back in 1993. But yeah, we had 400,000. Again, Bruno didn't have anything to do with it. That was under his nose. We weren't giving Bruno any of that money.
So you're making like 10K a week just from that.
Oh, the 400,000?
Yeah.
I had partners. I had 3 other partners in the
Got it.
In that business as
So
we
you're
went. But
charging
we were
5%
putting
in one point.
so we were grabbing it at 2% from a local loan shark in the area. So
Okay.
let's just say we were giving him 8,000, but we were putting it a week. We were putting it out at 4, 5, 6, up to 10 points a week.
Jesus.
You know what I'm saying? So it was like, let's just say we put it out at an average of 5 points. That's still
$12,000 a week clear. Clear.
Was there any business that you were like, guys, let's just get rid of this? I mean, that's a headache every week. We got to chase down this guy, chase down that guy. And you were like, just get rid of it. And your guys were like, no, keep it. Was there one business that you just didn't want nothing with, and that you just kept it because some of your crew wanted to keep it, and it was just a headache? Was it loan sharking, chasing guys for money? Was it chasing degenerate gamblers? Was it?
Well, there's ways that you figure things out in life. So when we were young and doing that, we were young and crazy, and we'd give a guy 30,000 that didn't even make $1,000 a week, and we would give him 30,000. I mean, that's how nuts we are. So there's different ways that you can handle those businesses that are more safer, where you don't have to kill somebody or hurt somebody over it, because that's what.
Yes.
What?
Was there one industry that was just a pain in the ass?
So the one that I would say that was the most nerve-wracking for me is when I took over the numbers business. That business right there. I mean, I used to have like a $300,000 bankroll. I used to be partners with. So there was this guy in my area, Dickie. It's where he ended up he was the number guy back in the day. A.B. Sacos and Louis Santos were the main number guys in our area. There's steakhouses named after them, Abe and Louis Steakhouse. Those were big number guys.
Boss is my favorite.
Right. So those were number guys back in the day. Dickie used to work for them. So Dickie took over the numbers business. He was running it for the wise guys in our area, back in the 60s, 70s, growing up like that. Anyways, when I took over, I put together this number business, and Dickie, we had a $300,000 bankroll. Dickie ended up getting out of it. He wanted to sell the marijuana. He was my big guy that would go to Mexico and bring 500 to 1,000 pounds of marijuana. He'd go right to Juarez with 300,000 wrapped around him, deal with the Mexican cartel. At the time, Juarez, where they were killing everybody there, he would go right over the border, right into Mexico. And that's how nuts he was. He was the best guy. That's where I ended up, had my stash house. That's where they found a body murdered there, and guns and marijuana. At any given time, we had like $1 million.
Body in your stash house?
Yeah, that was our house that we kept everything. I had at any given time there'd be $1 million worth of marijuana there.
Jesus.
And I had all my guns there. We murdered somebody there. I mean, it was a great place off the road. So the number business was the most nerve-wracking business, because you could have a bankroll of 300,000. Now, if you're booking $100 number, you got to know when your edge off is on that. You're 300,000. You could get hit twice back to back, 2 nights in a row, and it's happened, and lose the complete bankroll. So if you're doing 75,000 a week, you're not going to win every single number. So at the end of the week, try to work off 15%. So at the end of the week, let's just say it's 100,000. At the end of the year, you try to make 15% of the 100,000 a week, which is 15,000 a week. It's like 750 a year, and that's what you pretty much try to make yearly. That's how it all goes by percentages, just like the casino. Yeah. But the fucking number business, I used to tell them, I used to be cooking at night or going out to dinner, or I'd be with beautiful woman, or I'd be with a bunch of people, and we would have a bankroll that was up. And I would, if we got hit bad, I would say, beat me. Back then it was beepers. Beat me with all ones to know that I had to go move money around. Like if we got hit with all ones, beat me with all ones, and then tell me how much I got to bring you over, out of the bankroll that we got. And so it got to the point where because the number would come out at 10:30. I switched it all around, so we were using the state lottery, so you could actually see it. People like that. People would see the balls popping up, and they like all that, right? But it got so nerve-wracking because I'd be having a good time with a girl or with out, and all of a sudden I get a beep and I look and it's all ones with like 87,000 after it. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, it's like it ruined my night. It's like
you know what it is.
Ruined anybody's night.
Anthony, you know this. The numbers business, the true numbers business that you were doing, you were probably one of the last few to do it, aside from the Cubans, was probably the highest margin, but it was also the most capital intensive. You need a lot of money sitting around, as you said, just in case, and you got to move it around. Yeah, that is, and it's not legal. Can't run to the bank and do an ACH. You probably had to go to different houses to move shit around. Which is crazy.
Well, you got people. Yeah, it's like I had partners in that, and then you need people holding the money. But it's all about how much do you want to hold. So when I took over the business, we were given like close to 10,000 a week to the state as edge off. So that's just like giving away 10. That's like $500,000 a year that you're just giving away, right? So what I did was I created my own edge off. So I created the actual book, and then I said, okay,
actual real numbers.
Yeah, these are real numbers that you see getting drawn. Yeah, this is like if you go to the store and you bet the you want your 1, 2, 3 straight. Yeah, if you want, we pay you and you bet with us, and tax free.
Yeah. Well, so again, you and I speak, and I've interviewed a few times. I have you at about 5 to 7 different revenue streams, and between all this and partnerships and everything else, you had to have been netting well over 6 figures a month at that point, correct?
Tom, it's like so hard to compute how much I was making. All I could say is this. I could say is this, right? Is I could just give example. Okay, if I had a good week in sports gambling, right, and I had a good week in my numbers, and I sold like in one day alone. I've told this story before. I made 470,000 in one day of marijuana. So let's just say I had. I mean, if I had good weeks in sports in my my Shylock I collected legitimate bit, you're talking $1 million in 1 week. I mean, if you had good weeks, I'm saying if you had a good weeks in the sports business and in your numbers business. And when I went to prison in 2005, I had an orchestra. I knew I was going for 3 years. I had 3 to 3.5 with the feds, and I had a state, and I had 29 months with the Fed. So I had to get all my businesses lined up. Okay. And then I had to say, you're going to drop this amount here and drop that amount there and drop this amount. I had different places and eventually it was getting funneled back to me. My father was alive then. He was a big part of that. I went there, and then I was married at the time. So a lot of it went there, but I remember if I just had an average week, I was making 100,000 a month while I was in prison those 3 years. And that's just like,
passive
that's
income.
not saying, that's like saying if I had a horrible week in sports and a horrible week in the numbers business, that's just every month I could guarantee 100,000 was coming to where I needed it to go while I was in prison. Now, while you're in prison, 100,000, if I was out on the street, it would have been a lot more than that, but I just maintained it as that.
How did you wash the money? I know we tried to chat a little bit about this. Like, did you have stuff in your wife's name, your father's name? Did you have a lot of cash? How did you wash
I didn't have a chance. Like, so at the time, I didn't have a chance to get involved in all that because I kept getting indicted. And back in the, so it's like, you want to, like, I was going to build a house, but I'm saying, well, why am I going to build the house now? I had a beautiful area I was going to build a new home in, and then they're just going to take it on me, or I know I'm going to get indicted again, and it's like, it's going to stall the project.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I never had the chance to go, I got indicted in 03, then I got indicted again in 05, then I got indicted again in 05, then I went to prison from 05 to 08. I got indicted again while I was in prison in 07. We beat the case. I came out of jail in 2008. I got indicted again in 2010. So there was never that a chance for me to get everything.
That run of like 8 to 10 years where you would have crushed it, and then you would have been. I got it. So there's always kind of.
I thought I was going to get sneak through it all until it came out that the guy John, who was an informant, ended up coming in and going into the witness protection program, and then everybody started falling around here. Felix, he was in our area cooperating. The guy in one of the murders cooperating. So everything but I thought I was going to maybe somehow snake through it. And if I did somehow snake through it and get by with it all, I would have been, me personally, I didn't care what anybody else did. They would have never been able to tie it back to me because I wouldn't have wanted nothing to do with it. But I would have did legitimate shit.
Now, I know a few more questions before we wrap up. One question I have is, we all talk about, informants and informing, but I can't imagine you probably took a financial hit by informing, probably having to give up businesses and restaurants, leaving money. You leave money on the street, you can't go collect after that. What type of numbers did you have to give up, and what did you have to give up when you informed?
Well, just like with the Shy business, I had a couple $100,000 this last time out there that, you forget about that. Sports business, bankrolls that you had up, with the number business that you had up. So, you're going to forfeit all that money right there, which is a lot of money. But the legitimate deals, that was nothing compared to the legitimate deals that I had going on prior to me getting arrested in 2010.
Why would you lose on
why would you lose the legitimate stuff?
So I had deals that were coming on that probably would have put me, if I didn't get arrested in 2010, I had 2 deals that we were working on that you're talking in the hundreds of millions. Hundreds. I mean, it was like just one of them was a real estate deal where the property was it was listed as 23 million. You could put 3 blocks on it, meaning a Costco or Walmart, that's a block, like one of those big supermarkets, and then you could put one in the front. And I negotiated with the everything down with my partners, and so that was a huge deal. Another one was a tire business that we had, a nationwide tire business that GE, General Electric, was our sponsor, and that was going to be a nationwide with all the tow truck companies, 13,000 tow truck companies, and then not to mention all the legitimate businesses that were coming my way that I had to pass on.
Really quick, I get the illegal business, and you're a good negotiator. Maybe they might have had leverage on you, so maybe you're not in a strong position. You can't negotiate to keep the legitimate business?
So my partners, and it's funny, like you say that, because I like to talk about this at another time. My partners, once everything happened and, I got indicted for the death penalty case, those partners, they used to be, so they were a fringe organized crime guys.
Yeah.
Right. When you get locked up, it's hard to communicate through the phone calls and through everything. And then I got my own decisions that I have to make at the time that are transpiring. And when something happens, it's like, how do you, like, you can't, I ain't got nobody to go out there and say, go shoot this guy for me. Give them an example, like tell them, say, I'm still involved in this business.
Correct.
Like, who are you to say, or who is anybody to say I'm not involved in this legitimate business? The reason pretty much they fell apart was because I was the one putting them all together. I was you were the hub. Yeah, like in other words, I had to connect. I had all the guys that I brought together for the deal. So
you got to say,
once I got in there, I just
yeah. No, I get it. All right, and then I get another question. And then we're gonna be Jason got like 2 or 3. Then we'll wrap it up. One thing again, it's about in business, and it's all business as far as I'm concerned. When you deal with the government, it's negotiating, right? You're negotiating for your life, you're negotiating terms, you're negotiating a whole bunch of stuff. Did you try, or could you negotiate? You're like, listen, you know what? I'm going to give you A, B, and C, right? But I'm giving up $20 million. Could you ask them for at least some of it, or can you negotiate the financial portion, or does Johnny Law come and say, the fucking money's gone, brother? You're lucky if you're keeping your life. How does that negotiation go in terms of the financial when cooperating?
Well, just look at Joe Messino. He forfeited $8 million and got to keep $14 million in real estate. I mean,
right.
I was told.
Bernie Madoff would have got to keep $2 or $3 million.
Yeah. I mean, it's all different depending on what district you're out of. The district I was from was they didn't once you made a deal with the government, they didn't come after you as far as monetarily speaking. They didn't come at. Now if there was forfeitures involved in the case and things like that, that's different. They could get waived. They could implement them, but they could just say, okay, you got such and such a time, and then it goes away. So anything, but it's all depends on the district and yeah.
Well, you had a sizable forfeiture. You had a 7-figure forfeiture, correct?
Yeah, $2 million forfeiture. There was all kinds of they went up to 10 million when they added up all the rackets.
Damn.
Yearly. They said it was a $10 million a year enterprise.
And you're like, wait a second, who's robbing from me?
who's robbing the public now? Right?
No, because I think they shortchanged us. I mean, it was like, I think it was more than that, to be honest.
You're like, 10 million, thank you. All right, so he's got a few more questions.
We'll wrap this up. A very simple question here, because we'll probably do another interview, and I had fun on this one here. What was your favorite thing about being a made guy? The one thing that you could sit back and say, you know what, that was fun. When I got my button, that was a good time. I was happy with this scenario or this part of your life. What was the one thing that you would say was your favorite thing about being a made guy?
The best thing for me is and somebody asked me this question on the other interview I did was, in my area, we were trying to keep it hush, quiet that I got made. Felix Tranghese knew, and I know he let it loose to Emilio Fusco had strong beliefs that I was made. I never admitted it to him. You get formally introduced to each other, and I never got formally introduced to Emilio. What I found out since I came home was I always said Bruno didn't know. And Tom, I told you this before, and you can't believe it, Bruno. But I found out this from a friend of mine here, and I said, Bruno, did he ever? We started talking, and he said, no, Bruno definitely found out. Like when I said we never told Bruno, but Bruno and I could tell you stories of how he found out through bosses in New Jersey, the way they told him to treat me. They told him, listen, when you see that kid, you treat him like you would treat me. Now imagine a boss telling Bruno a message. So he just figured it out. But Bruno kind of knew. But the best thing for me, I would say, is outside my area, I got introduced to the bosses in Providence, Louis, Carmen from Boston, and all the captains, captains in the area, captains in Providence. And so when I was introduced, that was probably the best thing about being made, is that, you didn't have to go there and be like, yeah, I'm Anthony or whatever. It's like, I'm officially introduced as, and I'm the guy in the area. I'm being introduced as, the captain of our area, which is boss. So, I sat down with Louis. I sat down with bosses, Providence, Boston, and I've been in meetings in New York where they brought me around with bosses. So that was like the nicest thing. In the end of the day, did it mean anything? Yeah, it did, because in when you get treated like that, when you go to Boston, when you go to Providence,
Yeah.
there's opportunities, and now they know, they bring you the opportunities, whether it's legitimate business, whether it's anything. So it opens up the doors when it comes to that. So that was good.
That's cool.
So one thing I wanted to ask you that again I don't think I asked you, but we kind of touched on it before. Like, what was your biggest regret in retrospect, even including the informing? Like, maybe cut a better deal, maybe not cut a deal. I do talk to some informants that are looking back and they're like, shit, maybe I wouldn't have blew trial. You know, like, there's like, what's your biggest regret to date, all in to today? You know, what's your biggest regret, Anthony?
Just that I ended up joining. Like Jason said earlier, he said you had money, and you had a crew of guys, and why did you join? So that's a great question, and I think it's a great question. And if I could go back, I would have not joined.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have joined, period. But
Correct.
because you can't say you're going to join and you're not going to be violent. It's just impossible to predict that. You don't know. And so by not joining and not committing the violence, because you didn't have to commit violence, what are you going to do? Just kill everybody that disrespects you? You'll kill 100 people. I mean, it never ends. So it's like, that's the biggest. Anything else in my life, I have no regrets. I don't regret anything in my life. Right now, the decision to cooperate, the decision to, like I said, I gave my guys in my area a decision to be out here with me. That's up to them if they wanted to make that decision. They chose not to, so they're not out here with me. So that's on them. But so I have no, when you're going through it, yes, when you're going through getting indicted and you're in the courtroom and the judge says, what does he face for his maximum prison, sentence, and the prosecutor says death by lethal injection, and you got your family in the courtroom that hears that, and I got little kids, it's a sobering effect that it's like, wow, these people really want to put me to sleep, So, I mean, it's like, is it hard to go through and process everything like I went through back in 2010? Yeah, I mean, it was difficult decisions to make. Thank God I made them. Thank God. You think, like, first of all, do you think the mob is the same as it was, let's just say, in the 80s?
Yeah.
Then let's go to the 90s. Let's even go 2000s, right? Do you think the mob and the mafia is the same right now as it is then?
Yeah.
If they even exist? I mean, yes, it exists. We know it exists, but the top guys ain't doing nothing no more. They got their millions. They're not gonna break an egg. They're not going near anybody. Okay. And then you got the lower guys that are, struggling to get by, and it's not even the same comparison that it was. Can you imagine, just sitting in prison the rest of your life for this, that it doesn't exist?
For what?
Yeah. For what?
That doesn't exist.
Now, Andy, I don't think I asked you this, and you're comfortable answering what you can, because there always might be some security concerns. Are you in touch with, some of your family, none of your family? Are you fully estranged? Are you in touch with your family? If you could share what you're comfortable sharing with us today.
I live in my house I grew up with. I live with my family.
Oh, wow. Okay. I wasn't sure what things were.
I own my house. My mother, they live with me. My family lives with me in my neighborhood I grew up in.
Wow. Well, I got to tell you, and shout out to Loomis Santoro. We'll get him on. I'm liking his vibe. You went to the Mount Carmel Social Club and walked out in front like normal broad daylight.
Tom, since I've been home, active guys that they put in the paper that are so-called bosses of our area, they showed up in my house 2 days after I was home, hugging me and everything. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I've been down to the Mount Carmel Club a dozen of times. I've been all over Springfield and all the strip clubs and everything. When I did the GQ magazine,
remember that.
and I'm not going to say any names of
Yeah.
guys in my area, but I was down at the club filming with the guys from GQ magazine that when we went into the club, they wanted to take pictures where actually Al Bruno was laying, and they had the camera set up there, and I was standing right where Al Bruno was laying, and they were taking pictures, and we were in the club for at least an hour drinking espressos.
Jesus Christ.
You know, so I mean, I grew up here, you know, none of these guys around here have anything. They should have anything against me because I didn't do anything to any of them. Number one, and I'm not worried if they do anyways. But you know,
what does old Anthony? Let's just say you're the Springfield boss, right? The old Anthony do to you like this cocksucker moves in his own house, comes in a club. Would old Anthony let that go and like, fuck, who cares?
Well, listen, all these so-called guys that think they're gangsters, I would have them come kill me. But before I have them come kill me, I'd have them kill. There's about 100 rats that are walking around the streets around here, and they don't do it. So I'd have to kill 100 of them first. These so-called big mouths. You know, it's like these big mouths like that ratted back in the 90s. But then, you know, they got a little bit of time and then they come out and then they forgot that they ratted back in the 90s. It doesn't count. You know what I'm saying? So I would have to, before I kill myself, right? Then I would have to kill like, you know, at least a couple dozen of them. Then I would have them come kill me.
Get in line. Listen, Anthony, it was truly a pleasure. We had some loose ends we kind of wanted to tie up. There was a lot of people questioning, you know, why did Anthony do it if you didn't need to? If you clarified that. Some people brought up, you know, the fat guy. I think you addressed that as well. You know, I had nothing against.
We'll address that. We'll address that at some point. We didn't address it, but we're going to address it at some point
at a later time.
Definitely.
So Jason, thank you so much. Anthony, as always, and always a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tom. Jason, nice meeting you. You guys have a good night.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks, everybody.